That was so good. Ashleigh, would you like to come up?
Yeah.
Well, now she's up here. I could just get one more round of applause for her and all her hard work. So, just starting at the beginning, what was your inspiration for all the looks, especially Benny's, since I feel like he has the most stern look to him?
Well, we had Danny Lyon's photo book of that this whole story is based off of with the real people. So production sent everyone all of the images and the whole book so that we actually had that world that they lived in to go off of. And then once we started, had that, we just started dissecting each of the characters and their individual look. That the real Kathy and the real Benny and the real Corky and Cal, they were all real people.
And those are their looks. Wow,
Yeah.
That's awesome. Were there any unforeseen challenges you had going into that with getting them to fit the actors that you were with?
No, I think casting was so good, but again, based off of not just their qualifications as an actor, but based off of their appearances to that, we they did 50%. The casting did 50% of our job, and then we could just take it from there and really make it look like they were that person.
It fell into place.
And each person kind of had their own, look already that we just, could try to transform them as much as possible.
So when you're starting that personally as a makeup artist, where do you begin? What's your process for that?
Well, one of the biggest ones for this were the tattoos. And so I think each individual like biker had his own markings, and so the director Jeff Nichols really wanted to try to get those as close to identical as possible.
Right.
And so some of them were very obvious in the pictures what those tattoos were, and some of them just because the quality of the photo and they were older and the images themselves just weren't as visible. And so I worked with a gentleman and makeup artist named Christian Tinsley, and he is kind of the go-to in Hollywood for making custom tattoos to make them look so realistic. And so he was good. He and I worked together to kind of take the markings from the images as well as the director's wants and input, and just kind of customizing what these writers would all have on them.
Right.
He does much more than tattoos, but he is amazing at tattoos as well. Yeah.
Wow. Now that you are wrapped up with the project, what can you say was your favorite application to work on of all the characters?
I think probably Kathy, just because she was basically, one of the only female elements to this whole story. And so Jodie Comer is a very elegant in person. She's very proper and very just kind and sweetheart. And so I wanted her to look feminine and of the time, but she still needed to be rough around the edges because she's kind of, holding her own in this group of rough characters. And all of these men that she's kind of chasing after all the time. And so they live this rough lifestyle, but at the same time, she still is trying to, she has her nails painted and her makeup and mascara on. But I think I liked hers the best because, it was trying to add a feminine element to such kind of a rough around the edges life. Yeah.
I wanted to talk about Johnny for a second and the scars on his face. I noticed he had some. Could you talk to us about the process of getting those, the placement for them, and what you do to make sure they don't move? And I don't know if maybe I'm making this up. Did he have different ones appearing at certain points that he didn't have?
He did. So Tom Hardy has worked with an incredible makeup artist named Audrey Doyle, and she is the most hilarious person I think I've ever been around, and she's so awesome to work with. And she has been with Tom for probably 12 or 13 years. And so the two of them spoke with me, and as of course Jeff as well, and kind of all of us could put our input onto kind of, who Johnny was and what he looked like and why he would have things where. And so Tom really wanted the scars. And so Audrey was able to apply kind of based off of, just a little nick here and there, just because he was a truck driver. Even before he did any of this, he was still kind of a, tough guy. And so the scars were definitely Tom's idea. Audrey works so well with him, and they have such a great relationship. So they were, with us in the trailer every day. And so yeah, those were his idea for sure.
The mud fight, what was that process like? I'm sure as a makeup person, it's probably very, okay guys, I just finished my masterpiece, please don't mess it up. Yeah. So what was that like?
Well, we knew it was coming, and it was on the schedule. And so there's a guy, and I'm so sorry, I can't remember his name at the moment, but he just there's a tattoo guy and the fake teeth kind of guy. There's also a mud guy.
Yeah.
And so we went to him, and I just kind of told him, luckily the locations had all these really cool images of what our locations would be. So I knew exactly what kind and color of mud was going to be going on the day that we were having that fight. So I was able to send him pictures of that day to match what was actually going to go on the characters' faces and bodies, stuff that's safe for them to ingest or have in their eyes or whatever. There was definitely real mud mixed into all of that, but that was our coldest day on set, and so the fact that those guys were rolling around in cold, wet mud was horrible. But I think the high for that day was 24. And so we were all freezing to death, but they just got in there and did it. We probably shot that scene for 12 hours, and so it was just, the constant application of, no, this isn't good, wipe that up a little bit, just let them roll around, okay, that's a little too much, let's just take this off here, let's go. And it would just, every time they cut, it was just a swarm of hair, makeup, and wardrobe. Just everybody, all of us just would jump in and try to help each other out, because everybody was freezing, and just to kind of
get through it.
We just wanted to get off that mountain that day, so we just were trying to help as much as we could to get out of there. A couple of the guys, whether it be background extras or the stunt guys or even our lead cast, a lot of these guys have their own tattoos already. And a lot of them were just too modern. And so we have to end up covering all of those modern tattoos and then applying all of the, period tattoos. Yeah. And so the costumes was really willing to work with us because there were so many people in the cast. A couple of people like Tom's character and the guy who played Wahoo, who was the actor Bo Knapp. They were our most heaviest inked up naturally or normally, and so costumes was able just to knock it out of the ballpark to have them in really cool styles, but it kind of helped us out a little bit on saving time and put them mostly in long sleeves. Between them and then of course hair and makeup, even though we're two separate departments, we have to work, because makeup does beards and sideburns, hair does wigs or top of the head. There's an amazing company in London who I've worked with a couple of times, and a girl named Sarah Blackburn, and she owns a company called the Beard Makers. And the Beard Makers hand sewed all of the sideburns and all of the beards that were on our main cast.
That is fascinating. There are so many intricacies that go into filmmaking that you wouldn't think about until you step on a set, and there's so many little things you don't really consider.
Right.
Do you have any of those of your own moments in being a makeup artist, the head of the makeup department, where you're like, I bet no one would know I was doing this today?
All the time.
Yeah.
Because you don't think about the fact that a tattooed was covered if you don't see it.
Exactly.
But it's okay, well, they just look like their arm is in camera. Well, maybe you didn't know that there was a whole sleeve tattoo on that, that makeup artists had to work hard to not just cover it, but to make it covered match perfectly so it looks real on camera. With the cold weather, we were kind of fighting against that with all the lace for the beards, and the sideburns and everything. The adhesive for it does not love cold weather, and so we would just be like, please stick down, please stick. And sometimes it would work great, and sometimes the adhesive was just no, not today. Looking at it as a professional makeup artist, you might say, gosh, this is not the most professional I've ever been, but here, just take this putty, stick it on their face, stick it to them, let them get through the scene, and we'll just start again tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah. For the most part, you just take a deep breath and you just keep going, and you hope that everybody's just kind of distracted and talking amongst themselves. Not to notice anything.
I definitely didn't. I would never know that those actors had full sleeves underneath. I was just so taken by it all. That's really fascinating.
Yeah.
I also realized I never introduced myself. I'm Jada Cheek. I am a third-year student at UNC School of the Arts. I'm a cinematography student. Funnily enough, Jeff Nichols is also an alumni of my school, and a lot of the key crew I've heard also are UNCSA.
Adam Stone, yeah.
Which is a really fun connection. So now I'd like to open it up to the audience. If anyone has any questions they'd like to ask Ashleigh while she's here.
Hi, my name is Lita, and thank you both, Jada and Ashleigh. I recently relocated from San Francisco, so I have a great admiration for Danny Lyon, and I'm familiar with Magnum Photos. So thanks so much for bringing this story literally to life, because it's really fun to see the action. And I'm just curious, Ashleigh, could you tell us what is the career path that landed you as makeup department head?
Well, I've been doing this 17 years professionally. It kind of just all, the little steps. You kind of look back to see where which jobs got you where. But I would have to say that kind of landed me in the Jeff Nichols world. I did a movie that was shot here in 2019 called The Eyes of Tammy Faye. And it was, because of that movie, I worked with a makeup artist named Linda Dowds, who is Jessica Chastain's personal makeup artist. So when they came back in a couple years later for a TV show called George and Tammy that we shot in Wilmington, Linda had called me in to do that one, and I got to be personal makeup artist for Michael Shannon for that movie.
Wow.
After that movie, Michael Shannon directed his first feature film in the summer of 2022 and asked me if I would come do makeup for his film that he was directing. And in that movie, or while we were shooting that movie, the lead producer, Sarah Green, was the lead producer of all of Jeff Nichols' movies, including this one. And so she approached me on that one and just said, hey, Michael said he's worked with you a couple times. We might be interested in putting you up for this. Would you be willing to, read a script and talk to the director and see if it's something that you would like to do? And so, I read the script in one sitting. It was just like major page turner.
Right.
One of the best ones I'd ever read. And then when she said Jeff Nichols, I really didn't care what the movie was. I just wanted to do it. And so, because I loved his other movies.
Right.
But then I read the script and I was like,
and it happens to be amazing.
And it happens to be amazing.
Right. So did you always want to work in film specifically for makeup? Is that how you began?
No, my parents worked in TV production when I was growing up. And so my sister and I grew up around just being on a set or, kind of the lingo that you hear in production. And so I really was always super bored when I was at work with my mom when I was little, because they, or if she was in editing sessions, because it's the same thing over and over and over.
All day.
So when you're a little kid, it's kind of boring, but I always say makeup just found me. I didn't know I was looking for it. I kind of worked in and out of production out of high school, just didn't really know what I wanted to do as PA.
Right.
And we had a family friend who was recovering from breast cancer, that she was a makeup artist here in Charlotte, and she was looking for an assistant. And she was kind of as she was getting her strength back to kind of get back in. She did weddings and commercials and, corporate videos and stuff like that. And she, even though I had absolutely no, interest at the time in doing makeup, and I didn't know really anything about it, she knew that I knew set etiquette because I'd grown up around it and I'd worked in it, various positions. And so she hired me. And when I started doing it, I'm not really sure that I had ever felt like I was really good at anything before. And then when I did it, she told me one day, I did, a couple different people's makeup just kind of off the cuff, and she was like, oh, you can see colors. And I didn't really know what she meant by that. And then I started thinking, oh my gosh, I can I can kind of see these colors, and I never knew that I could do that. So I think opportunity, luck, and just kind of having grown up with like parents who were freelancers and in the industry, it didn't seem foreign to me to be able to do this kind of work.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until makeup came along that I actually thought, oh, I'm kind of good at something, and maybe I could really try to be as good as possible.
Sounds like you're calling, like a true moment for you.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, for sure.
So, throughout the movie, we see a lot of stages of Jodie Comer's character, her life. Like before she's with the vandals and while she's with them, and then post vandals, right? Mm-hmm. I was curious if you put, if like throughout these different stages of her life, if you put thought into changing her makeup to help convey like stressful periods or calm periods.
Yeah, definitely. There are a couple of different photos of Kathy in the photo book, and there's one of her when she first got into the club, and she kind of looks more joyful and more youthful, and it's literally only like a year and a half later. There's a photo of her. She's got bruises on her legs. She's got some scratch here, maybe she fell off the bike or whatever. She has no like mascara or, liner or eyeliner on. You can tell she maybe tried to fix her hair that day, but beyond that, and even like her whole demeanor in the photo seemed a little bit more just kind of somber. Like maybe, like what did I get myself into? Or maybe this is tough. And so I think we definitely, also because the movie flips back and forth, just to kind of keep track for the viewer where you are in the timeline, to kind of do a few things differently, but just to kind of make it seem like, she's got a lot more that she's dealing with besides just getting her hair and makeup done in the morning. She's having to deal with this whole lifestyle now, and that's, apparent that it's just harder. So yeah, it was definitely intentional, but also it was just right there in black and white in the real photos.
Yeah, I was wondering, like on top of the jackets, and you talked about the tattoos were meant to sort of personalize and tell everyone apart. I was wondering like what all rules these guys, the Vandals, had for like a look, like how strict they were with that, sort of all the things that they kind of thought of and try to coordinate.
Well, I did hear about how there were certain tattoos that if they had one on, like if a skull was facing a certain way, or if it had certain markings or whatever, that they would intentionally make the guy either scratch it out, or they would make him, get something added to it so it was different. So there, as far as the club or the gang was concerned, I think they probably, as it went on and on, were more strict with what you were allowed to basically present to the world for yourself, what you look like. You had to represent them or there was trouble. And so the costume designer, Erin Bannock, who is incredible, she also did Birds of Prey and a couple other movies, but she was really cool in letting myself and the hair department head look at all of the designs that she had for each actor before we started prep, so that we could kind of
Get a sense
of who, which, character each character was as far as their costumes go, so that we could kind of start mapping out what we could do to add to that.
Right. That's fascinating that's another department you have to work so closely with.
So closely.
To make sure they match.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we probably don't pick up on those things, but I'm sure the moment you see a makeup look that does not match someone's costuming, it'd be very obvious.
And or if their costumes are filthy, but there's not a speck of dirt on their face, or their hair is like perfect and they were supposed to be riding through, the Midwest all
the
day.
detail,
It just takes you out of the story,
exactly.
As a viewer, you just are like, well, that's not real.
Right.
That's not how that would be.
Right.
So,
and given this is already a story adapted by people's real lives, you want to be as close as possible.
As close as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Or how close was Danny with the making of this when he found out this was happening?
I'm not sure as far as those conversations, but I mean, the book inspired this entire journey, and Jeff Nichols saw the book in 2003 at his brother's house because the book came out in the 70s, and so he's literally for 20 years been in his head as he's making all these other films, slowly piecing together this story.
Wow.
And there are all these. The reason why it's portrayed that Kathy is interviewing is because there were real interviews, because the real Danny was, recording everybody's interviews. And so Jeff and other people in production, we got to hear the actual recordings.
Oh my goodness.
And so Jody would have those recordings in the makeup trailer, that she was listening to, because again, she's from, England. She's very posh. She talks very eloquently. So she's trying to, mimic this like kind of hard, outside of Chicago
Right.
dialect. And so it was kind of cool to hear the real Kathy's voice, have pictures of her up for reference in the
Right.
trailer, and then try to transform Jody and the rest of them into these people.
Do you think you'd be interested in being a department head again after this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable as department head. It's cool because you get to pick your own team. So, if you're going in as like a key or a third or a fourth, or you even help in the background, I mean, it's great, and you get to be a part of the team. But if you're the department head, you get to pick your team. And so you can literally like think, especially in a place, one like this, where they're like, okay, you can bring your people with you.
Right.
To be able to say, okay, who is amazing at just like the filth and being like, a workhorse who can like help me with all of these people.
Exactly.
Who was a girl named Megan Deputy, who is my key makeup artist on this one. She's just phenomenal and always in good spirits. And another girl from North Carolina, Lindsay DeSarno. Lindsay's probably one of the best makeup artists I've seen with facial hair application. As far as like, some people are just more patient with it than others, and she did Funny Sonny, who was Norman Reedus. So she had to do his teeth every day, and she had to do his beard and his sideburns every day. And Norman actually loved her glasses that she was wearing, and he was like, I gotta have these for the movie, can I wear them? So he put them on, but he didn't realize they were prescription. He also didn't realize that they were transition. So when the sun started going down while we were trying to film, the glasses are like lightening up, and they're like looking at the monitor like, where did his like dark lenses go? And so Lindsay was like, I gotta get out of here. I can't know I'm the culprit. But no, Norman, it was, he wanted them, and it was great, but she's super patient with that stuff. And then a lady named Jody Byrne, who is a local Cincinnati makeup artist who was recommended to me by someone, and she was amazing. And so I kind of had to take a chance on her.
Right.
And she turned out to be incredible. Like, her work is beautiful.
I believe it. Everyone looked so seamless. I honestly wouldn't even suspected there was someone specializing in facial things. I think it was all natural, which I think is the goal, is to be as, I know they say it often with sound, if it goes unnoticed, you've done your job correctly.
That's the point, yes.
Yes, and they all looked so natural and like sun-kissed but somewhat rugged in a way where it's like, well, what can I even say about the makeup?
Like, if nobody's calling out for makeup, if nobody's saying makeup, we've got this issue, makeup, come in here, makeup, do that, then you're good.
Exactly.
And that's, the goal is to present what they already want on set, and then, you can just like hang out and be there to take care of your actors throughout the day.
Yes.
Just super quick question. So you mentioned Tom Hardy, brought in his own person, Jessica Chastain, have done that as well. Two kind of pair of questions. How often does that happen, and does that provide difficulty for you if you're bringing in your own team as well, or are those kind of different jobs? Showing my ignorance here.
It happens depending, with people at that level, you can maybe see that more. Like Leonardo DiCaprio has had his own makeup artist for 20, 30 years. Brad Pitt's had the same one for 30 years. I think sometimes when they're early in their career, if they find someone that they really just click with, not just in their makeup application, but also in personality. like they want them around. They bring them comfort. They know they're going to be taken care of, and so that's really cool. And Linda Dowds, who has been with Jessica Chastain, they've done like 20 projects together, and so she knows that Linda's going to take care of everything for her. You know, the continuity is going to be perfect. Everything's going to be good. She's going to be comfortable. And so you do see that from time to time. I've only been a personal twice. So I was personal for Michael Shannon, for George and Tammy, and which means you just take care of that actor, you know. And then I did a movie earlier this year in Atlanta as personal for Lindsay Lohan. And
that is so cool.
yeah, I know. I'm so happy to see her like coming back and like acting more, and so if they are a makeup department that has been, you know, in the business for a while, you like having a personal there. For the other actors, it takes one person off of your list that you have to take care of every day. But it also, like with Audrey, who's Tom's artist, she was so much fun. And so, you know, as long as they're nice and friendly, then it's great.
Hey, there's like obviously a lot of blood in this movie. How do you go about determining like if someone gets cut, like how does the blood splatter, and how do you go about determining like what that looks like?
Well, you have to figure out what is your responsibility and what's the responsibility of visual effects. So it's kind of a two-part. If it's fresh blood, you just have to research, you know, exactly what that's going to look like. If like when he got his fist through the window, you know, I had to research, okay, what does a slit cut look like, more than just like a gash, or more than just like, you know. So there's a little bit of research that goes into it. The bullet wound, okay, what kind of you know, firearm was it? How far away were they? Was there an exit wound? Was it, you know? So you kind of have to do that research. But there's just kind of a balancing act between visual effects. If there's a special effects makeup team, sometimes that's separate from the regular. We didn't have one on this, but and then you can kind of work together. But as far as this one, special or visual effects had made the piece of glass for me, and inside the piece of glass, he had cut out like a little canal so that I could dump the blood into that, and then like adhere it to the skin, and then just dress it with blood after that. But then that way, when Austin pulled it out, there was blood inside that to splatter it onto his face, and we did that in one take.
That is so cool.
And I was so happy because if there was so much, you know, stress for that one, because I mean we're working with, it was shot on film, so it's not just digital that you can just do it a million times.
Right?
Yeah, and so yeah, you kind of have to work with a couple different people. Like when Brucey gets knocked into the back of the car, so obviously the stunt guy plays that up to a certain point, and the visual effects did the splatter for that. So, you know, there's a little bit of a gray area as who does what, but you definitely just have to talk with that other department and see, okay, how far up with this are you going to go, and then where do you want, you know, me to step in for it or whatever, if it's a little bit.
And just set those boundaries.
Yeah. So everybody knows who's doing what on the day.
Exactly.
Hello. I have a question about, obviously, Austin Butler is a pretty boy, gorgeous.
Gorgeous man.
Gorgeous, thank you. And just your thought process when you know that you've got to transform somebody from their gorgeousness into somebody that is the rough and tough and a little bit rugged around the edges. And I read in Us Weekly, the interview that you did there, that one of your techniques was actually applying like a layer of dirt all over him. Explain that.
Somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah. Or the parts that we're showing anyway.
Yeah.
But explain that, your thought process of how you get that look from somebody that obviously looks like that.
Well, it's texture and layers will add ruggedness to someone on camera, as opposed to smoothing things to give them that, you know, adding to that finished, pretty, perfect look. And so it was anything that I could do to add some some ruggedness to his skin, which was perfect, by the way, of course.
Yeah.
But so I used some tanning gel to kind of give him like a little bit of, that tan,
Right.
just because they don't wear helmets, and so their face was always exposed. And then just mixing up a couple different colors of fake dirt to kind of get that like perfect road dust look. Since these guys are just kind of having the road, blown up onto them all day long. And then just never letting his fingers look too clean, never letting his beard look too groomed. And then, but it's hard to make, like, Austin and Jody both look bad.
Yeah, they both look very beautiful the whole time.
Because
so
she goes glamorous very quickly.
Yeah.
Like, you put a little mascara on and she's
she's
like the
set
most
for the day.
beautiful woman you've ever seen in your
Right.
life. So just trying to make them seem realistic, but still really cool. Just trying to do, what you can to keep the grooming not perfect, and
Right.
A little bit of that sun damage going.
So I know that every minute spent on a set is a lot of money, so you want to have all of your preparation for this makeup done in advance. I was going to ask, from the moment that you know that you're doing a project until your first day on set, how long is that period, and what does it kind of entail for you preparing these looks?
I was prepping for 6 weeks before the movie, and so the biggest part is you need to figure out who's wearing what tattoos. Each of our cast had a fighting double as well as a motorcycle riding double. So every single of the main guys, a lot of the motorcycle riders were the stunt guys, so they would just be in the scene in the back. But all of the ones that were our hero characters, we had to have all of the facial beards to put on the other two stunts if they had facial hair. We had to have, the hair department had to have all the wigs, and we had to have triple tattoos available every day, because you take them off and then you put them back on every single day. And so, I spent a week straight just cutting tattoos out, just every day, just trying to get everybody's grouped and ready, and just tons of research. Norman, it was probably about a week before we started filming, he was still in Paris on a project before he was flying to Cincinnati to start with us. And it takes about 4 weeks to get those fake teeth done. And so he was, because of the time difference in Paris, I was having to wake up, at 4. So I can call a certain guy when he was available to set him up with, the orthodontist to go get fitted for the teeth. And then his the beard makers that was doing his beard, they were in London. It was a lot of, staying up late or getting up early to accommodate their time zones. So, it takes a while. You have to find out if any of your actors have any allergies. Do you need to order gluten-free makeup for anyone who may be celiac? Do you need to, all of these things. So it took the entire 6 weeks that I gave myself to prep, to feel 80% like we were ready by the time we started filming.
Right. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to ask? No? Okay, well, you already kind of asked it from me, but is there anything we should look forward to from you, or any acts you'd like to shout out before we go?
The Lindsay movie. When is that? Yeah.
The Lindsay Lohan
Oh,
movie.
yes.
It's a Netflix movie. It comes out in October. I think it's called Our Little Secret.
Oh, okay, well, we'll look out for
So
that.
that
Your
one-
name in the credits.
Yeah, that one comes out. I think it's October.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure.
Well, thank you so much
Yeah.
for coming. It's great to have you.